Good morning, welcome back to the Arcane Forge and to the Drawtober challenge for 2020, a shining light of inky darkness in this otherwise soul-crushing year, an illustration challenge where I attempt to draw every single day throughout the month of October using the on-screen prompts that you can see here as a kind of guide for what I should draw each day. And today's prompt for day 21 is the word bend. And I'm so pleased with what I came up for this one. I had absolutely tons of fun making it, so I won't keep you any longer. Let's get started with today's video and talk about the prompt word bend. So for this one, I decided to draw a particular kind of scene or a moment, I guess. I drew an adventuring party discovering and trying to decipher, maybe, a long-lost wizard's spellbook. The adventuring party seems to be made up of a dwarf, a half-orc, a half-elf, and a human. Kind of went with the idea that the half-elf here is some sort of wizard's apprentice. I gave him a little pointy hat, and he's the only one sort of brave enough at this point, or perhaps foolish enough, to be trying to decipher this book and actually cast the spells within without fully understanding what they do. And I kind of pictured the scene that he is sort of began this incantation of some kind, a ritual perhaps that he doesn't fully understand. The rest of the party is gathered round him. We have this half-orc lady, sort of crouching in fear, almost hiding behind this half-elf as he casts this spell. And I imagine something along the lines of the wording that he's managed to be able to decipher so far is that this will increase someone's dexterity, this will increase someone's flexibility, or something along those lines. So naturally, the monk on the far right, this human monk, is eager to have their dexterity boosted. You know, what monk wouldn't want a high dexterity, you know? In reality, all it's doing is going to sort of supernaturally contort the body of whoever has the spell cast upon them. A bend, as it were, as per the prompt. This monk is now doubled over in a very, very agonizing looking way that only a contortionist would find comfortable, with their feet bent over by their ears. They have quite a puzzled and agonized expression on their face. The scene is so revolting that the dwarf of the party is over in the corner being sick. The two half characters, the half-orc and the half-elf, are desperately trying to find some kind of magical remedy for what they have cast on this poor monk. Perhaps a little skeptical of their ability to do so, as they've already made such a massive screw-up. Rather than having an agile, dexterous monk as a companion, they probably have someone that they will need to roll to the nearest hospital. So I kind of imagine them casting a reversing spell, or maybe the same spell again, to try and counteract what they've done. Toying with magics they don't fully understand. And they're both extremely nervous and worried about this, while at the same time perhaps revolted, just like the dwarf, at what they have done to their friend. Now, I really enjoyed this illustration. I tried out a technique that I've not really explored before. As this is a kind of wizard spell being read from a book, I went for the kind of, I think I mentioned this in my launch illustration, the kind of sorcerer exploding forth some kind of massive fiery ball. But I like to differentiate my sorcerers and my wizards from kind of the almost like magically mathematical nature that wizards use to harness arcane energies. That the drawing of runes and the writing of magical circles in the air is somehow involved in their casting process, unlike a sorcerer who can draw upon the magic within themselves or draw upon the magic around them to cast magic without having to do all the lengthy understanding behind it all. But yeah, so I tried a bit of a different sort of painting technique for this. I did my usual sort of line work based on a sketch and then went in with some shading for the most part. But I actually started off by using a technique called wet in wet that I'm somewhat familiar with from watercolor painting, where you produce a lot of negative space, which I decided to use kind of begin this magical ring for this spell. And energy being drawn in from the nearby surroundings as well, in a very chaotic manner to kind of maybe illustrate that this guy is unfamiliar with the kind of power that they're drawing upon. But the idea is that you wet your page. You need to have a very specific kind of paper for this, watercolor paper specifically, otherwise the paper will get waterlogged and it'll become mulchy basically. But you have a good stock of paper that is designed specifically for watercolors, which thankfully mine is. You can sort of saturate the top layer with water and then just dab a little bit of ink, and it makes this beautiful washing pattern where it looks like the ink is kind of almost growing and melding through this area, and it only really touches areas that you have already covered with water. So it's a very organic way of making a nice kind of gradient and some really interesting patterns and shapes in the inks. And then afterwards, I actually came in with a little bit of white acrylic paint and decided to draw a few sort of runes and things floating around this magic circle. Usually I'd have some kind of symbol in the middle of this circle with some of these runes sort of delicately laid around the outside of it. But I thought because this was a spell he was trying to figure out and he wasn't particularly familiar with or something like that, I could have them just sort of scattered around as if they're kind of flowing from his hand. He's reading some of these runes, they're being interpreted by his mind and carried like a conduit through his arm out of his fingertips and sort of splayed around in a very disorganized and poorly understood way, just to kind of show that he doesn't totally know what's going on. But yeah, I had loads of fun with this one. This was a really cool prompt and I really enjoyed this drawing. I enjoyed this, getting to do something new. It was quite frustrating because it took so long to dry, and I have packed away my hairdryer that I usually use to, speed up the drying process of my inks for the house move, and I don't know where I've put it, so I had to kind of do this and then leave it and then come back and do this and come back and, and do it in sort of little bursts, which is not really what I wanted to do, because I usually like to get these drawings done in one sitting and then get on with the rest of my day, because I'm trying to fit these illustrations into one day, I don't really like stopping and starting and coming back to things once I'm in the flow. So I don't think I'll do this technique again until I can find wherever on earth I have put my hairdryer. But it was a really fun technique and I am eager to explore more of it. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you had as much fun as I did with today's prompt. And if you did, make sure to tag me or share your artwork with me so I can take a look and share it with the rest of my community. If you're not taking part in the challenge and you're just watching along, then don't worry. I hope you had a fantastic day all the same. And in the meantime, I will look forward to seeing you back here for day 22 and the prompt word fruit. So have a great day. Bye.